We're rolling. Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to Defendercast. Defendercast is a podcast about business, property, and positive thinking. And today we are still rolling with season 3, and this is a bonus episode. And I will introduce my two guests. One is my co-host.
Good morning, Nick Russell, Sales Director of Tab.
Thank you very much. And
Ben Fish, Director at NewPlace.
Welcome, Ben. Thank you very much. So Ben and his colleague, who unfortunately isn't here today, won the prize to win your podcast. What was
Moment of Fame?
Moment
15
of
minutes,
fame.
could be 45 minutes, but it's your moment of fame.
Yeah,
this is it.
This is it.
All
This
on this
is-
moment,
This
mate.
is as good as it gets. And so we'll ask Ben to tell us a little bit about him and his company. And thank you all very much for tuning in. We do appreciate your time, and I hope you find this episode interesting. So tell us a little bit about your business, if you don't mind.
Well, NewPlace, we're just about a year old. Joe and I, we've known each other since school. Our paths have crossed. His route sort of quantity surveying and mine sort of off the tools and operational. 2017 December, as a little side project, we bought a bungalow which we felt had a bit of potential, and that was going to run as a side project. But in September last year, we had the opportunity to take on a main contract and made the jump.
Okay. So prior to that particular bungalow, which we'll come back to, what were you guys doing?
So, yeah, well, like I say, Joe and I went to school together, all through school. Joe went off to uni after school. I went straight out on the tools, trained as a carpenter. Then, after running a business in Croydon, and then pockets of Surrey and South London, I moved to Essex, and the journey back each day was causing me a bit of a problem.
Yeah.
Then I took a job as operations manager for a subcontractor in the city, doing a lot of office fit out.
Okay.
At that time, Joe was a contracts manager for Overbury. So our paths crossed. We did a lot of work on some Overbury jobs and some BW jobs when he moved over there. And then this opportunity came up, and we made the jump.
Okay. Sounds interesting. So timing was interesting as well for you to get stuck into your first project.
Yeah, I mean, I think when opportunity comes, you just got to take it. It's always a bit daunting when, I'd been self-employed for a number of years, but for Joe, sort of been always a PAYE employee.
You're used to getting a paycheck.
That's right. Yeah, so it's a big jump, but I think he would agree that it's the best thing that we've ever done.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely talk a lot on Defendercast about the difference between being employed and self-employed, and when to make the leap, and all the decisions that need to be taken during that period. It is a big leap, and obviously it goes from your earnings potential when you're employed being capped, really, to being uncapped when you become self-employed. And it's just about building up confidence and building up contacts and funding and sort of deals. So it didn't feel like as big a leap for you. So you'd been self-employed for some time.
I've been self-employed, yes. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'd had 3 years working in the city, for this subcontractor. So I'd sort of gone back, and I didn't really like it. I liked control. Yeah. And so it was very easy, and the timing was right for me. I'd sort of felt like it had come to a natural end at that job, and it was fine. And I think where we've propped each other up, really. Whenever there's been a bit of doubt regarding that, I've always said,
we'll be all right.
It'll be all right. And Joe, we're very similar in our thinking, but at the same time bring different things to the table.
So I was actually going to ask that question. So I guess what makes I always say to people, choose your partners carefully, and I think the fact that you guys knew each other at school obviously makes a big difference. You don't have those initial kind of concerns to get over, but I guess what makes a really good team is where two people are bringing different skills to the table, and you trust each other and kind of back each other.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean that trusting and backing goes without saying, but the bringing the different skills, because my background, I've got trained as a carpenter, so builder, sort of getting my hands dirty. I mean, Joe's did that, in his teens. His dad was a builder, so he understands that side of it. But then went to uni, did a law degree, went on to do a master's in quantity surveying. So the commercial and the numbers angle, which really isn't my strong point. So he brings that, and from a
it's good contrast of skills actually.
No,
professional experience, and you've got the on the ground experience.
Yeah, which I think So we cover not everything, but we cover, and then the rest of it we sort of fudge through really, and you're always learning.
Fake it till you make it.
Yeah, but it's but it's been good. I mean, it's a nice time. It's a real shame that you couldn't make it today because we've 13th of November we were a year old.
Yeah.
It's obviously Christmas, the end of the calendar year, our financial year as well. It's
so tell us about the sort of projects that let's talk about this first bungalow that you guys got stuck into.
Yeah, so this came up in...
I think a lot of people are actually interested in what I found from people that are listening and following is, okay, so how do we, it sounds like a good idea, like to get into property. My mate's got some building skills, I've got some other skills. So, it's about kind of taking the leap and how much money you have to scrape together and how the finances work.
I mean, definitely. It was, I'd got involved with the last firm. We did an investment. We bought an office building in Kilburn and did a PD development into 16 flats. Now, prior to that, I'd bought my own first house.
Where was that in Kilburn? Was that?
It was on the high road.
The Nando's?
Just along from the Nando's. It was actually it was solicitors' offices.
Okay.
I think it had the Labour Party office in one of the units downstairs.
Oh, so you kicked them out?
Yeah, later on, I think all of the offices above were to do with the solicitors. So,
yeah, okay.
But that was a challenging project. But I'd started off by bought my first house, and it was an 80-year-old lady lived there. Sort of same old story. It was run down. They just took the roof off it over 18 months. Just sort of rebuilt it. Brought my newborn son into a building site, which raised some eyebrows when people were coming around dropping gifts off. But that was in Leigh-on-Sea in Essex, and the improved transport links and local surveys having it the happiest place to live in the country. The market went up, so that was quite a good.
It worked out well. Yeah,
pulled the money out of that at the earliest opportunity.
Tax-free income as well.
Of course, and then went straight into that development in Kilburn, and as soon as that was finished, I was working with that company and sort of had all my investment money in there.
Yeah.
So I felt I was a little bit.
So you worked for them, but you also co-invested in the project.
Yes.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and I felt that at that point, with the market started to change, and just didn't really want to have all my eggs in one basket.
Yeah,
I was still happy in my job.
Yeah.
But took the money out, and at that point, Joe had found this bungalow in our town we grew up in Coulsdon. Yeah. And it just seemed like a good investment, bit of a punt, but it was, like I say, corner plot.
So what felt like a punt because you didn't have the planning permission to do what you needed?
We bought it. Well, it was we just got it on a buy-to-let. Didn't really know what we were doing. Didn't really have time to look at it too much. We just
instinctly looked cheap to you guys from growing up in the area.
Yeah, it was cheap. The bungalow was set back into the plot. Yeah. Obviously, corner plot gives you. It had
scope to.
So we bought it. We got. Everything takes a little bit longer than you're expecting. After 9 months, we went to committee and got planning for 2 semi-detached houses.
Awesome, wow.
And that was just about the time we got this main contract, so that's when we decided to make the jump. So we'd been building 8 units in Beckenham in South London, and then these 2 semi-detached houses. And then we were, shortly after we got decision at committee, Croydon Council released the Suburban Design Guide, which basically was talking about intensification of the suburbs of Croydon. They pledged to build 32 or 33,000 new homes by 2035, I think. Okay. And this basically told you how they wanted to see it, because 20% of those homes they wanted in the suburbs. Okay. So we took that information and I went back into planning initially for 7 apartments, and after another year, November the 21st at committee, we managed to get that one through at 6 units. And
awesome.
Yeah, so we were pleased with that, and we're gonna make the decision to sell that site. basically to give us seed capital for some other projects in the borough that we're looking at.
Okay, so there's two schools of thought there, but what my mind's thinking, just having been through some of these discussions before, is I guess you've obviously found a good deal, you've maximised the value because you've obtained planning, gone back to get further planning permission. At that point, is it not on the basis of your building skills, does it not make sense to see the site through, or are there so many opportunities right now that you think, because sometimes it's like, careful what you wish for, you get your money back, but then you can't deploy it into something?
I think it was a bit of a love affair. We always said we'd build that one out because of the way it had come about, and it was what sort of, gave us the boost to make the jump. But there's a lot of opportunity at the moment in Croydon.
Yeah.
Like I said, they're massively under pressure to create new homes. It's the biggest London borough with the most homeless. Not homeless guys or girls living in shop doorways, but people in
needing accommodation.
Largest amount of lack of homes for people.
Lack of homes, yeah. So we're people living in families in bed sits with kids sharing beds and stuff. Yeah. So I mean, the homes that we're building, okay, they might not go to them, but it just frees up a rung on the ladder, as it were.
Yeah, sure.
So over the course, so we quit our jobs in November and December last year, and got started properly in January. And over the first 6 months, we managed to. There was a lot of opportunities in Coulsdon, which is in the south of Croydon borough, and nobody was really looking there. Everyone was looking in central Croydon. Again, lots of opportunities, and in Purley. But this is the last town before you hit the Surrey border, and it's where we grew up. So we thought, let's just stick to what we know.
Yeah, makes sense.
We looked at some of the roads and areas in Croydon, and especially Purley, that seemed to be open to development, and development really worked, and Croydon were open to it. And then we looked for similar areas of Coulsdon with the same characteristics, and then just sort of tried there. But what we're noticing in the last 6 months of the year is that people that were in Purley are now starting to look in Coulsdon. So fortunately, we're ahead of the game, and those opportunities, I think, helped us make the decision to.
So did you take on other projects? You've done other projects during the course of the 12 months?
We used this project was in Beckenham. Was effectively paying some of our wages. We took on some personal debt, just to get us through this first year. Yeah. So that's partly the other reason that we're deciding that let's reset. Let's get the cash out. Okay.
Yeah, you've made some profit. And
can we take a step back a sec? Because I think what's interesting for people who are listening is you've taken a big risk by taking personal debt. If you're comfortable, you just talk about how you structured taking on debt. Because that is probably something that people are quite nervous about, scared about, whether it was on the asset that you bought to get the planning on your own home. You obviously talked about you've already got a young family. There's huge risks involved there, and I think it's fascinating for people who are willing to take that risk and people that are procrastinating over taking that risk. And just walk us through that a little bit.
I think that, going back to what we were saying earlier, I mean, it's about having the right partner. I mean, we both read the same books. Rich Dad, Poor Dad is one that I'm sure we've all read. So that mindset was in both of us. So I think when you do have that element of doubt, as long as you're not both having it at the same time, you can pick each other up. But yeah, we definitely. I mean, I think people. There is sacrifice that comes with that risk. It's not all sort of let's take a risk. We're all up for it. And
roses and sunshine.
We've both got young families. I've got 3 and 4 year old boys. He's got a 6 month and I think a 3-year-old girl, or 2-year-old girl. And so obviously with maternity leaves, it's quite tight at home anyway. Yeah. We were lucky that we both did these refurbs on our houses that opened up. That gave us some cash to start off with, but. Fortunately, you can borrow at the moment. There's money still available. Personally, we had good credit ratings. I mean, that's crucial. And that's something that in good Rich Dad Poor Dad they talk about. Yeah. We took the debt on. You take on credit card dumps, personal loans, but it's I think it's just got to be measured. You've just got to make sure you know what you're getting yourself into.
Budgeting.
You budget properly, and you don't try and reward yourself too early. You know, it's
the right at the very start. I mean, that's I guess. Yeah, you don't load up the credit cards and start spending money. It's
that's
about
right. Well, it's the good debt, bad debt thing. Isn't
yeah,
it?
definitely. And even with even when you build up the confidence and you start looking, there's things that can start to cost a lot of money if you don't know what you're doing and you're paying for surveys and valuations and legal fees on things that you're not buying. So I guess your experience as well, having bought your own home and started to understand what the costs are. So I think that's where a lot of people kind of miss the associated costs and everything that kind
That's
of
right.
can
I
go
think
with. It adds up.
Being optimistic is you need that.
Yeah.
You'll never get anywhere, but you need to be realistic at the same time.
Yeah.
And I think that's another balance. I mean, there are times when I can be, you know, a bit too optimistic, and you know, Joe might say, "Oh, we haven't thought about this," but you know, and the other way, you know, Joe can be very optimistic sometimes, and you know, so I tend to look on the worst side, and then anything better is a bit of a bonus.
Yeah, fair enough.
But then with him generally being the other way, it means that we push forward, because otherwise, if you're always doubting, you know, that hesitance, you won't move. So sometimes you just got to go for
Playing
it.
each other's devil's advocate, really, isn't it?
Yeah, which again, it's you know, I've even when I was on the tools, I had partners that I work with, and I think having that balance, because sometimes what you think isn't always the right way. So it's good to have.
Yeah, and you need to have someone's opinion who you value. So otherwise, you just think, oh, that's your opinion. So it's it's nice to have good partnership in that place. So where do you see? Is it NewPlace? Is that what the company's called? So where do you see yourselves going, and what would you like to achieve in the next 12 months? What's the game plan?
So we are, like I say, we're gonna sell this site, which is gonna give us a decent amount of capitals going into next year.
Yeah.
We've got sort of three strings to our business, I suppose. I mean, the first one, in Croydon, we've put together a couple of land assemblies. You know, where it might be 5 or 6 plots together, which we are working with Croydon to get through planning.
Is that under options or
options? I mean, we've learned the hard way. We've had to, with the first land assembly that we put together, we've had to buy a number of titles because of the way they became available.
Yeah.
So we've been fortunate enough that we've had a couple of investors that have sort of helped us along the way in the early days. We were fortunate that we had a couple of lenders that have lent based on our CVs and past experience rather than just on paper, because you know we were only a year old in November and we haven't even filed our first year accounts, although they are healthy.
Yeah.
So when you say lenders, what sort of lenders?
So
development and bridging, buy-to-let,
both actually, bridging and development. I mean, we this first land assembly, we bought a house with quite a decent sized side garden, if you like. Went in for planning to convert the existing house into 3 flats and put 4 in this space next to it. Then to buy that, we had to go development finance. But just after that went through, the house next door that was already split into flats came on the market,
right?
And that had a similar parcel of land next to it. So these were developers that, you know, they needed their exit, so we had to scrape together money to buy this land and those flats. So that's where we had to use some bridging.
Yeah.
We're expecting a decision sort of, I would say, spring next year on that one. And we pulled in, just touching on what you said about options, 2 adjacent neighbours to that, so you know the outside neighbours of the scheme.
So you bought one plot, bought the one next door, and then started.
The 2 neighbours, we spoke to them and went down the option route because they were, you know, they're quite happy where they are. That, you know, our approach was a bit out of the blue. Yeah. But no, it seems. So
talk through the options. I think that's interesting for people. So my understanding is you say to them, look, we'll pay you X for your houses if you let us bring the sites in, so we can go for a bigger scheme. Maybe you offered to pay them a little bit more than they would have got otherwise.
Yeah, slightly more. I mean, it was actually driven by Croydon, because we went in for the pre-app for the initial 7-unit scheme.
Yeah.
And they immediately said, looking at the street scene, because there was 2 or 3 houses that had these huge side gardens. So they said to us, and it was in their pre-app response, have you asked your adjacent neighbours? Obviously, they're struggling for homes. Basically their whole theory behind it is, if you're going to upset neighbours in a road, we want as many units as possible, really, because
might as well upset the whole street.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I suppose it's if you're going to do it, and let's do it quickly. Let's get as many units as possible, and then sort of leave that street alone. So we took their lead on it, and that's when we approached the adjacent neighbours. Just wrote to them initially, then had a couple of meetings, and things progressed, and that's how we put that site together.
Interesting. So, where are you up to with that site then? 'Cause it sounds, it's interesting as well. You talk about, did you have to pay for those options? As in, did you give them some consideration, or because you end up having laid out now quite a lot? You've got development finance, you've got bridging debt, you've paid for options. So it is the way, in my view, to actually make money out of. Being a developer or builders, you can really start to extract some value, but it takes time, right? You can't just snap your fingers and do a deal.
Definitely takes time, yeah. I mean, we're talking since we initially were introduced to that site. I think it's probably about 15 months now overall.
And what's your plan with that site then? Is that something
we're working closely with Croydon and a housing association that are keen to look at sites for shared ownership.
Yeah.
So we're looking to, I would say probably by January or February, we should sort of finalise that deal, and then as we go into planning, with a subject to planning agreement.
Build it, or
no? Unfortunately, because with the housing association,
he's not going to let you build anything, is he?
We're not even a year old. So
yeah.
I mean, that's when you talk about what's the aim for the next 12 months. It would be to get another step closer to being able to build those jobs out.
Why? What's stopping you from building it? Because funding?
Yeah, well, not so much that. It's because the way they're funded, the housing associations are, they're...
So you'd be delivered, they want to... with housing associations, you're thinking they're the eventual buyer, right?
Yeah,
and then they'll build it themselves, or they'll contract.
They'll only use contractors that are... a bit more established, have got a bit of a track record of developments of that size.
Yeah.
Which is where I think we'll get to.
Yeah.
Because it's public money, isn't it? So they need to make sure that it's safe.
Yeah, sure.
But in the meantime, we've got a JV that we're starting next year in February, which is an 8-unit scheme. Again in Croydon, JV with another developer which we're building out, and we would probably look to build another one out starting probably May or June of our own, and then we've got a couple of other schemes that are sort of 18, 20 units that may come to fruition next year.
Yeah, it takes time again to piece them together.
Yeah, we've there was a lot of opportunity there. We were quite bold. We got involved in a few decent deals, and
sounds like you've got a healthy pipeline without going overboard and putting yourselves at a risk of upscaling too quickly without scaling the actual business.
Yeah, well, I think that's something I learnt from my previous company. We were fortunate enough to go from 6 million to 10 million in the first year after I joined there. I mean, that wasn't solely down to me, but the company was in good shape. But what happened in the following year is that the infrastructure didn't catch up with the growth, and it just meant that there were half a dozen of us just working really hard, really long hours, and it's just unsustainable.
When you say 6 million to 10 million, what was...
So that was the company I was working with previously.
What were they? 6 million of what?
So they were...
Turnover?
Turnover.
Turnover, okay.
So they were... quite a well-established subcontractor in the fit-out industry.
Yeah,
and they wanted to get into main contracting, which was my background.
Yeah.
And then by bringing the main contracting, and that allowed the owner to grow even further the subcontracting, and that was what. But that growth of so quickly.
Yeah.
You just
if it's not managed correctly, you end up doing more damage to what you had before than you do.
Sometimes it's better just to stay at a lower turnover and actually make profit.
And if you're playing the long game and you've got time on your side and you want to kind of build up a portfolio of little wins and improvements, you pick up contacts along the way. You've clearly picked up some good contacts at the council, which can make a huge difference between a site being profitable and not profitable, and kind of having your out lined up before you've even started building anything.
Yeah, having several outs. I mean, we've seen a lot of people, especially in central London, sort of a couple of years ago, where they were taking jobs on and they've taken a bit of a hit.
Yeah,
so
sure.
You need to have.
You can wipe out a couple of years of profits quite quickly if you start getting carried away. So I'm interested to talk about the professionals that you've kind of surrounded yourself with, because planning, from my limited experience, is a minefield of its own. Yep. You've got huge difference in price, in quality, in time turnaround, even from one architect to the next. And then I've found that some architects also need a planning consultant. There's some bits they can do, like the physical drawings. There are other bits they can't. And then maybe further to that, just expand on the question. I mean, like, your architect's drawings aren't fit for building. You need another stage of drawing. So tell us a bit.
It's more expense, and again, there's some stuff that you just.
Even on a site you've got an option on, you could have spent a huge amount on research.
And it's really important, we found, to not get married to a site because you've spent so much on it, because it's sometimes better just to walk away from
Most definitely, that's great.
But that is difficult first time, and then it's not until you actually look back and think, actually, we got out alive there. But I mean, that's, you talked about the team. We're really lucky. I mean, I would say anybody that's looking to do anything in property, people sort of tagline it a power team, but your team, we've got a very good lawyer that was a close personal friend of Joe's. That's helped, because it's the speed of turning things around.
It is.
The architects that we use are local. When we bought that bungalow, they designed and got through a similar scheme in the same road. So we thought, let's not reinvent the wheel.
Yeah.
They were based in the town, and we've continued to use them. As we've grown into trying to deliver these major schemes, we felt that it would be, again, for turnaround times, it would be better to bring design in-house. So we did that in October by bringing in an in-house design team. He's a team now. It was initially just one architect, Patty, and she's, I think it was just last week we brought in a guy called KK that's helping her with the drawings as well. So that just means we can speed things up. And on the major schemes, you need so much more, which we went to pre-apps originally for this major scheme that I was just talking about, and when I look back, it's embarrassing the quality of that compared to just in a couple of months. How that's changed.
Oh, that's really, really good. So your in-house designer, if you like, you go and see something, and then is it as quick as, right, we've seen a site that's got a big corner, what do you think you could squeeze on here? Maybe give us an idea of what it looks like.
Feasibility is great, because obviously, you don't want to waste any time. You don't want to waste anyone's time, especially when we're working in quite a small area. You don't want to get a reputation as a time waster. We always say a quick no is good to hear.
Yeah, definitely.
But it is. It's really nice to be able to walk into the office and say, sort of, Patty, we've just seen this. What do you reckon? And within an afternoon, she'll have a look and tell us. I mean, but we still do use the guys that are based in the town for the smaller schemes, and they're just as good. I mean, we can send them something, and within a couple of days they come back, say, this is a good site, or no, there's a few things that just aren't going to work.
Yeah, sure. How do you split the kind of workload between the two of you? Are you out together all the time?
We had been.
I used to say with an old partner of mine that we don't need to hold hands to go to every meeting together.
We would say that. But I think in that, when you first set something up and you're excited about it and you're making these contacts, it's nice so you both know them. I think. But I think once we got to the summer this year, we started to take. We've got a guy called Rob that helps us find sites and do our acquisitions. I sort of took him, and I'd deal with more that side of things, putting the sites together, early feasibility, whereas as we were sort of getting in the latter stages of design, that's really where Joe's working with Patty and KK to then basically look at this, how are we going to dispose of these sites? You know, are we going to work with housing associations? Is it going to be something that we flip, or is it going to be something that we build out?
Interesting. Good. Yeah, and then, okay, one more question, and then maybe, Nick, you can fire off some questions. I was just thinking about the longer-term strategy. Do you have in your mind, would you like to build up a portfolio? Do you like the idea of selling everything when it's finished? I've heard some people talk about, we'll kind of build 6 and sell 3 and keep 3. Have you thought much about
I think it's just we would... Again, just don't put your eggs in one basket. So definitely, whether we would... I mean, what a new initiative, build to rent, seems really exciting, and that's something that Croydon are really pushing.
Yeah.
So I think that's something that we've looked at, because I think they, you build a scheme there, say it's just, for example, 100 units. I think they want 20% for a certain length of time.
Yeah.
But what they do is they mix those social rent units amongst the others. So this whole on the schemes with housing association, where just some of the units are for social rent or London affordable rent, they would have, it got classed as the poor door.
Okay.
And then you'd have a separate core for your private, which is really what Croydon are trying to get away from, because then you create sort of areas that are...
So they want to mix it up in the building rather than have a shitty block on the side.
Segregation.
That's right. They call it the poor door. They call it, and because if they're trying to maintain that longer term, they don't want an expensive lift and expensive lobby to constantly have to upkeep and maintain. So that's
knowing who your end product, your end product is aimed at is vital, because people talk about finish being everything, but it's not everything if you're going to rent to the council for 20 years. Right, it's more about how easy is it to fix and repairs and maintenance.
But build to rent, I think, longer term, because it basically means that you've got, from a developer point of view, you're helping to create these new homes for social rent.
Yeah.
You're still creating you've got building homes that you can then sell or retain. Then you can retain the freehold. I mean, if you had 2 or 3 of those over a period, you can put those together, and then there might be an exit. You might sell those to a fund. When the time's right. But I think it's just generally just keeping your options open and not getting too focused, going down one road and then catching a cold.
What does the ideal project look like for you? I mean, At
the moment, I think if we get an introduction, or we find sites and we write to the owners, if we immediately get good feedback from them, and we then speak to the neighbours and we can start putting a site together, I think that's always good.
Down the option route,
ideally.
So any money you spend is on trying to figure out whether there's some real value to unlock in the site.
Right, yeah. I mean, in this initial land assembly that we put together, we've had to buy 6 titles. Yeah. So obviously that's stamp duty that's gone. Yeah. That's interest that's gone. To do that, we've had to bring investors on board, which they're part of our team. So we'd rather use them than anyone else. But from a business point of view, obviously that's more cost.
Yeah.
And then I suppose in the suburban design guide that Croydon have brought out, in there it sort of talks about, corner plots being ideal, stuff that's going to work for them. Yeah. So if it's working for them, then it works for us, because it makes that planning process a little bit easier.
Yeah, I mean, definitely one thing I've picked up is your sort of desire to come at it from the other way, which is, what do the council want? What do they need? How are they going to support us and make our lives easier? And then you tailor what you're looking for, knowing that you're going to have an easier ride at the other end. Whereas I think a lot of developers that I've met are always kind of fixated on exactly what they're looking for. And then you have battle after battle after battle in the planning process about, we thought we were going to get houses, they want flats. We thought we were going to get flats, they want family dwellings. And bulk and mass and all these things come up. But if you can get a steer from the council and actually say, go talk to your neighbours because we think we could drastically improve, I mean, that's very, very valuable.
No, definitely. I mean, that the impression that we get from Croydon is that they're sort of tired of developers, knocking down a house and putting 9 units up because they can get away from the affordable element. What we're trying to do is embrace the affordable element.
Sure.
And then, like you say, work it backwards really, because, if we can, there is a tipping point. If there's a site where you might get 12 units, it doesn't, 12 units on the affordable, it doesn't stack up. But what they were seeing is sites that might be able to deliver 20 units, and people still just sticking 9 in there so they don't have to give any away to affordable. But then they were just not granting on under development. So,
Are you nervous about selling to the end user market? Is that a consideration of yours? Because I know you're quite focused on working with the councils, working with the housing associations, whether that's them taking lease, forward funding, forward committing, which to me is very sensible in this market. I think that area of the market is obviously there's huge need for housing. Are you doing that because that's the way you feel the market's going, or you also because there's an element of nervousness around, if I build these, can I sell them and get my money back because of where the market is? Yeah,
I think we're quite fortunate. I'd hate to have built a scheme out that's come to an end now, and I'm trying to sell at the moment because
it's quite sticky.
Yeah, I mean we work quite closely with other developers, and they've some have found it easy, others are stuck with stuff that they're now using exit finance just to get out, and
more
maybe
costs,
more bridging costs, more
That's right. Yeah, it's I just think that we are quite lucky in that we didn't start a year earlier, because we then probably have stock where we'd be trying to sell now. I mean, a lot of other developers now are looking to refinance and just hold on to them. But yeah, I think things will become clear sort of in the first half of next year, I hope.
It's kind of double-edged really, because on the do you mind getting me something upstairs? Sorry. Because in some respects that means that there's buying opportunities. I mean, the people that you're talking to about selling, are they more receptive to, I guess, if you're selling better, you're buying higher? So there should be opportunities where we are right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a buyer's market if you did have cash now. I mean, that's, and we're working with some of the homeowners. Obviously, their probably appetite is keener at the moment, I suppose, because they can lock in a purchase price now.
Yeah.
If it's a 12-month option, they know that in 12 months' time they know exactly what they're going to get for their property. Whereas if the market changes, and they just left it out to going down the normal route, they wouldn't achieve the same amount.
Interesting. So funding-wise, moving forward, so I think it sounds like more of the same, really. You want to unlock some of these sites, pull out some of your profit and start. I mean, is your funding relationships, who's the stronger out of the two of you? Who sort of deals with the finances? And
we've got another close personal friend of ours. He's a guy called Steve Head.
You really have got a power team around you, haven't you? He's done about 15 years in banking, with most of which was with Barclays, and then I think he did a couple of years with Handelsbanken. He got tired of working for other people, and he about 18 months ago had a bit of a change, and was a independent mortgage broker. Yeah.
And he's been working quite closely with us. He works with us a couple of days a week.
Okay.
And just basically goes out into the market.
Yeah.
He's had a tough task really, because we have been on paper we're new
entrants.
He's really had to sort of work his relationships, and I think once people meet us and they can see what we're putting together, and they hear about some of the projects that we've worked on, they're a little bit more confident.
Yeah, definitely.
Joe especially, his route, when he was working with Knight Harwood, he was part of the team that delivered the Chiltern Street Firehouse.
Oh wow, okay.
One Hyde Park as well, one of the penthouses there. Then he's delivered some huge fit outs for Overbury and BW as well. job. So we've, our CV stand up. I mean, mine a little bit different, but from the ground up, just coming out of school, going to college as a carpenter. I've gone sort of from sweeping the floors to sort of running sort of teams of 40 or 50 guys.
Awesome. It's the best way to learn. I mean, it sounds good. I mean, okay, so question that's just jumped into my mind about new build versus kind of major refurbishment. New build versus major refurb, because I've seen a lot of projects come unstuck where people thought, it's a PD conversion, so this is going to be a much easier ride. I mean, give us some thoughts.
My experience with that, I mean, most of my early career was working on existing, we didn't do a great deal of new builds unless it was extending to an existing property. But the real thing that comes into my mind is that development in Kilburn.
Yeah.
That was the building was over 100 years old, and it was PD. So I think
you need a real M&E specialist, right?
Yeah, M&E structural. Yeah. I mean, we went in there originally and didn't. I think we underestimated it.
Yeah.
A little bit. I mean, certainly the guy I was working for at the time, I think that we didn't realise. But then once we got to grips with it's the structural element really. Yeah. Once you got to grips with that, then it's just a fit out, and I think that's quite easy. But you can massively underestimate.
Which again is the kind of same once you've built. Once you start building from scratch, once you got your structure in place, then it's a fit out.
Right. I always used to say, where you are with thin air. There's no surprises.
Yeah, that's my point.
Once you're out the ground, it's.
Yeah, I mean, I've been on some sites where, like, day one, they start pulling stuff off, and then there's more stuff coming off, and there's more stuff coming off, and you're thinking about rebuilding up multiple layers and floors and roofs and.
100%. I mean, the only real surprises are in the ground. I mean, we had a bit of a surprise. The guys that we were the developer that we were building these flats in Beckenham for. Yeah. The guys that did their surveys pre-construction probably weren't on top of their game, and there were some issues with the drainage that nobody picked up, and that was a best part of a 3-month delay for them.
Yeah, and costly probably as well.
Costly for them, costly for us actually, because we didn't, although they were very good, they paid us through that delay, or part of it. It pushed us into the bad weather when we just had the best summer, 40 years or whatever. Yeah, and we were still laying bricks in September when we had a hell of a lot of rain. Yeah. I mean, definitely in the ground, but with new builds, once you're at the ground.
What's the main difference then, apart from the obvious building in say through the summer, you've got longer hours, it's easier conditions. Is there any sort of any issues apart from the cold and the weather, different times of year building?
We've, the summer can always be difficult. I mean, especially, there's a huge foreign labour force, and a lot of them guys from Eastern Europe, they're here without their families, so they might disappear.
They go home for the summer
for 4 or 6 weeks over the summer. Christmas is similar, and Easter can be quite a big deal in some of the Eastern European countries. So we struggled at my last company, which was a Romanian company. So we really struggled at the holiday periods. But other than that, the summer's great. The longer working hours, just the weather, and just generally I just feel like everybody's in a better mood. And things get done. But we've that's hurt us a little bit in this last quarter when we should have been watertight, but instead we're still laying bricks and roofing.
We need to be watertight now. And
we fortunately by the end of this week we will be, and then we've got 3 months of fit out.
So is that a project you've taken on for another developer as builder?
Yes, it was.
It's like a build contract.
That's right, and that was it was that and the initial permission for the 2 semis that was going to give us enough capital to just about scrape through, or wages to scrape through. Yeah. But that's 8 units. They're retaining those. Their exit is to get up to 40 units. Okay. That's a guy that's been quite successful in the tech world. Okay. Him and a friend of his have set up, just basically sort of hedging a little bit into property. Yeah. but yeah, so this will take them to about halfway to their target, I think.
Fine.
But yeah, we're just main contractor.
So there'll be some more in the pipeline for you to build for them as well?
Yeah, potentially. I mean, I was, you know...
Unless they're blaming you for the...
Yeah, well, it can get a bit sticky, and you know, obviously we haven't got to final account yet, so we'll see how that goes. But they're good guys. I mean,
do you want to do more of that? Do you want to? I mean, I guess the busier you get with your own stuff, it'll be hard to take on projects for others.
You get that conflict as well, don't you?
That's right.
Where do you place the more importance? The people that are paying us, or where actually we want to try and move our own business?
That's right. I mean, I think really we would be. For example, we've taken on with a developer that is based in Croydon. We're doing a job that we start in February, which is sort of going to we're the main contractor, but it's a bit of a joint venture where there's some profit share there. I think that was the only way we would main contract for someone else if there was something else beyond that, and I think that works well the other way, because just like you said, Nick, there's no conflict then, because it isn't just a build job. There is a profit share at the end of it. So even if you are building something where it's your own development, 5 minutes down the road, it's not going to take all of your efforts if you're limited on.
And you're aligned, aren't you, as far as wanting to deliver? I mean, I guess you should be aligned anyway, but wanting to deliver on time, on budget, and. Everyone's sort of on the fighting for the same.
No, that's right. I mean, we Joe and I, we try and be as open and honest. That was from the get go. That's how we wanted to be. But human nature.
Sure.
It's always going to kick in at some point. But
and your head gets turned as well. And I guess the other thing is that you're trying to meet good people all the time that you can work with long term. And it may be this time they need you to come in and build something, but next time they might be too busy and want you to buy something that they can't buy. It's just building up.
Well, it's, business is about relationships. So and sometimes you might do these favours, however big or small, but they do tend to come. They do come round in the end.
Yeah, definitely. Most definitely. I mean, if we're sitting back here again in 12 months, which maybe we should try and do, what do you think will have happened with some of these projects? What would you like to have seen?
Well, I would like to see, this first land assembly I'd like to see that through, and to see the housing association take that on. So we've got.
What do you think will be there then in the end? As in, because it was 7 units, then. You added the house next door. What's the size of the
our initial pre-app? I think we went in over 40 units, and like I say, we've refined that design.
Yeah.
Patty's been a big part of that, bringing the design in house, and we're now going back in with 36 units, but real good quality.
Yeah.
Mass street scene looks good.
Yeah.
We've considered a lot of the 1930s characteristics, gable fronted. We've looked closely at some of Croydon's similar schemes in 1930s roads or earlier, and especially the stuff that they're doing with Brick by Brick, which is their sort of Croydon's partnership with a developer where they're coming up with the land and and they're sort of capping. The developers are capped, but that's a scheme that seems to be working quite well in Croydon. Yeah. So we just, we're looking at that. Hopefully, we'll look to get through that, over the summer. I'd like to think that by the end of the year, we're on site three smaller schemes, maybe a couple of sort of 8-unit scheme, maybe another 9, and maybe one of these slightly bigger ones. So we start to staircase up to maybe in a couple of years being able to build some of these housing association schemes out ourselves.
Awesome.
Brilliant.
Sounds fantastic. I wish you the best of luck.
Thanks.
It's been a really pleasure catching up. Interesting to hear the story. I think you said as well, just from a lender's perspective, that sometimes it's important to be able to get your hour and be able to talk about all the things that you can't read from an application form. It certainly feels like the sort of guys that we would want to back as a lending company, and keen to meet your partner as well, and
we'll definitely
maybe have a look at some of these plans and see how things start to come together. But appreciate you taking the time to come see us. Really enjoyed it. Thanks.
Cheers.
Great.